Okay, so back on November 8th, 2016, a sudden announcement in India sent these massive shockwaves through the entire nation. But the real story, the one that was playing out in the shadows of international crime and espionage, well, that was far, far more explosive. So let's peel back the layers and uncover this hidden history of how one single economic policy brought a whole criminal dynasty to its knees.
And that brings us to the central question, which honestly, it reads like something out of a real-life thriller movie. How does a seemingly domestic financial decision made in New Delhi lead to the dramatic and sudden downfall of a powerful underworld figure all the way over in Karachi? Let's unravel this mystery together.
The whole thing kicks off on that fateful night. India's prime minister gets on TV and announces that the country's two biggest currency notes, the 500 and 1,000 rupee notes, were basically going to be invalid in just a matter of hours. And yeah, this caused absolute chaos in India. But the real earthquake, it wasn't felt in Delhi or Mumbai. Its epicenter was across the border, in Pakistan. Now, just look at this timeline for a second. It's pretty stark. A mere 26 days after India makes this historic decision, the mastermind of a massive financial terror network turns up dead under very mysterious circumstances in Karachi. Coincidence? Not a chance. To really understand the connection here, we've got to go back in time. Our story actually starts way back in 1947, right in the middle of the partition of India. Amidst all that chaos, a trader named Abdul Sattar Kanani and his family moved from Gujarat over to Karachi. They pretty much arrived with nothing, but they had one thing in their blood, a real talent for business. So Abdul Sattar starts out with just a simple currency exchange stall on a footpath. Super humble beginnings. But his twin sons, Javed and Altaf, they took this and with a really strategic partnership, they transformed it into a financial powerhouse called Kanani and Kalia International, or as it was known, KKI. And their success, it was just staggering. It was so fast. KKI grew to dominate a full 40% of Pakistan's entire foreign exchange market. Think about that. Javed was the guy running operations in Pakistan, while his twin, Altaf, was busy building out this huge international network from Dubai. On the surface, they looked like a legitimate success story. But underneath it all, a much, much darker business was absolutely booming. So by the time the 1990s roll around, the Kanani brothers' story takes a really sinister turn. This is when they form an alliance with two of India's most feared enemies, the underworld kingpin Dawood Ibrahim and Pakistan's intelligence agency, the ISI. Right, so after masterminding the 1993 Mumbai bombings, Dawood flees to Pakistan, where he's under the protection of the ISI. Now, he's got mountains of dirty cash from extortion and trafficking, but he needs a way to move it secretly. So in this clandestine meeting in Karachi, he strikes a deal with the Kananis. Their new joint venture? Well, it was called the Kanani Money Laundering Organization. And their number one tool for this was the ancient Hawala system. It's a network that's built entirely on trust. Think of it like this. You give cash to a guy in Karachi. He makes a call, and just minutes later, his buddy in Dubai hands over the exact same amount to your contact. The debt between the brokers, that gets settled later. There are no banks, no wire transfers, and absolutely no paper trail. The Kanani's reputation made them the perfect underworld bankers. The scale of their operation was it's mind-boggling. The Kanani network was laundering an estimated $14 to $16 billion every single year. And this wasn't just for Dawood. Oh no. This was for Mexican drug cartels, for terror groups like Lashkar-e-Taiba, and even for Pakistan's own deep state. But see, money laundering was only half of their economic war on India. Their second weapon was fake Indian currency notes, or FICN. And we're not talking about cheap photocopies here. These things were near-perfect forgeries, printed in state-protected facilities in Pakistan on real security-grade paper. They were so precise, they could even fool ATM sensors. It's estimated that about 2,000 crore rupees, that's 20 billion rupees, worth of this fake currency was being pushed into India every single year. And this money, it was used to directly fund terror, including the horrible 2008 Mumbai attacks, and at the same time, it was being used to destabilize the entire Indian economy by fueling inflation. Now, an operation this huge, with clients ranging from Al-Qaeda to Mexican cartels, well, it couldn't stay in the shadows forever. the Kanani network eventually caught the attention of a multinational intelligence task force. We're talking the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration and, crucially, Indian intelligence agencies who were feeding them vital intel. The net was closing in. In a secretly recorded phone call with undercover DEA agents, Altaf Kanani made this boast that just revealed his fatal flaw: pure arrogance. He told them, money, whether stained with blood or cocaine, will come out of the Kanani machine completely pure. He thought his system was invincible. He had no idea that this very conversation was sealing his fate. So the trap was set. After building up trust through a bunch of smaller transactions, the DEA agents lured Altaf to a face-to-face meeting in Panama for what was supposed to be a massive deal. The moment his plane landed in September 2015, he was surrounded and arrested. Just like that, one half of the empire had fallen. But the war wasn't over yet, not by a long shot. With Altaf locked up in a U.S. jail, his brother Javed was still at large back in Pakistan, and he was sitting on warehouses packed with thousands of crores of fake Indian currency, all ready to be deployed. The threat was still very, very real. And this is where our story comes full circle. Back in New Delhi, a top-secret meeting took place, and the conclusion was clear. To stop the bleeding, they had to go for the jugular. They needed a move so audacious, so bold, it would render Pakistan's entire terror financing weapon completely useless in one fell swoop. The result of that meeting was catastrophic for the criminal empire. The Prime Minister's announcement on November 8, 2016, that was the masterstroke. In a single moment, Javed Kanani's entire arsenal of fake currency, the product of years of planning and work, was turned into nothing more than scrap paper. The weapon was disarmed, just like that. So overnight, Javed Kanani went from being this powerful, untouchable asset to a massive liability. His criminal partners, they wanted their money back, money that just didn't exist anymore. And at the same time, his brother Altaf was starting to cooperate with U.S. authorities, spilling secrets about the ISI and other powerful Pakistani figures. Javed, well, he simply knew too much. And then, just 26 days after demonetization, the inevitable happened. Javed Kanani was found dead. The official story, he was distressed and fell from an under-construction building. The police immediately closed the case, ruled it a suicide, no post-mortem was ever conducted, and his family remained completely silent. And that brings us to the final, lingering question of this entire saga. Was it a desperate suicide by a man who had lost everything? Or was it a calculated assassination to silence a man who had become a very dangerous loose end for some of the world's most powerful criminals and state actors? That's, right there, is a question we're thinking about.